Hello everyone and happy Thanksgiving. Can you believe we are officially in the holiday season? Thanksgiving preparations are being made, lists are being made, stores are being shopped. We're gathering all the stuff for our delicious Thanksgiving meal. What I have for you today I think is perfect timing because I have looked and found some really yummy Thanksgiving side dishes. And we've tried them, we love them. I think they're ones that you might want to give a try, so stay tuned through this whole video from the beginning to the end. It's full of yummy things that you might want to put on your Thanksgiving table. All right, you guys, let's get started.
Hi guys, I hope you're going to really enjoy all of these recipes. Let's get started with this first one, and to go along with it, I needed some crostini or some crisp bread. A baguette is what I chose to buy, and I just sliced this all up and baked this in the oven for about 5 minutes or so to get these crispy. And I ended up using these for 2 of my recipes. So the first one I'm going to show you here is called a baked cranberry cream cheese dip. I first saw this on Facebook, and the picture of it alone got my attention. I was like, wow, that is so pretty and so festive. And after I looked at the recipe, I knew it would be something worth trying that I thought we would enjoy. So let me show you what we're going to do here. We're going to make the cream cheese portion of the dip. Now, I did not have white cheddar, which is what it called for, but I had this Munster, and I looked up would that be a good substitution, and it said it was. So I shredded up a little bit of the Munster cheese, and then I'm going in with a little bit of the mozzarella and then some softened cream cheese. These are the things plus one other ingredient that makes the base for this cheese dip. Now, it called for sour cream, and I decided to sub this Greek yogurt. Now, plain Greek yogurt is a pretty equal substitution for sour cream, but this one has honey in it. And I knew that was really branching out there, but this I felt like could work as a substitution. One, you're using the cranberries in there, which are so tart, and I thought that little bit of honey with that cream cheese would not be a bad addition, and it absolutely was not. This was so interesting, so tasty, very festive, as I said, not only to look at but to eat. I really loved this one. So what you needed to do, of course, was spray your baking dish, and I just used this small clear pie plate. And then before you top with the cranberries on top of the cream cheese that we already have in there, the cream cheese mixture, you just want to toss these cranberries in a couple tablespoons of sugar. So you get kind of a sugared cranberry, and that sort of offsets a little bit, again, some of that tartness that you do get from fresh cranberries. And like I said, that's why I knew that Greek yogurt with honey would work. And I promise you, this is such an interesting, tasty, delicious dip. Nothing like anything I've ever had. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so I'm just pressing these in. It called for some fresh parsley on top. I wish I had bought that, but I did not. I just thought I would use my dried parsley, which was just fine, but the fresh parsley would have definitely been a more vibrant green color here on top. And then you could serve this however you wanted. But since I had this baguette I bought for another recipe that I'm going to show you, I decided that this would be good served on the baguette, and it was delicious. I highly recommend going that route if you make this. Look how pretty this is. Is this not just so pretty and festive looking? Again, so delicious. Highly recommend making this if you want something different and beautiful to serve on your Thanksgiving and or Christmas table. All right, this recipe I think is one that would be really great on any table, Thanksgiving or otherwise. It's called a cheesy asparagus bake, and the prep time is literally about 5 minutes outside of frying up the bacon. And if you had prepped that ahead, you could literally put this together in 5 minutes. So once you have trimmed and washed your asparagus, you're just going to place that in a casserole dish or a baking dish of some sort. that you spray with cooking spray. So I just arranged mine in here. I did not measure out exactly how much I had. The recipe calls for 2 pounds. I'm sure I had a little less than that. But you just put your asparagus in there. You're going to pour over heavy cream. I cut back a little bit because I didn't think I had quite 2 pounds of asparagus. So heavy cream on top of that. And then you're going to go in with some garlic and some pepper. And next up comes your trio of cheeses. The recipe calls for freshly grated Parmesan, Gruyere, and mozzarella. I did not have Gruyere, so I substituted Swiss cheese for that, and I had slices, so I just kind of sliced those up into smaller little squares, and they worked out perfectly. So you just want to top your asparagus and your cream with your cheese mixture. This bakes for about 20 minutes. Now the recipe did say that you could put your red pepper flakes and your bacon on top, or it even suggested French fried onions if you'd rather have that before baking, but I chose to bake first. Then I put just a sprinkle of the red pepper flakes and my bacon that I had just fried up. I went ahead and just crumbled over the top of that. Of course, these recipes, every one will be listed down below, so be sure and look in the description box for the recipes. I have to say that I literally just could have eaten all of this at one time. This was so delicious, probably the best asparagus recipe that I have ever tried. Of course, I like asparagus just fine, baked or air fried or cooked. However, I like asparagus. Now, if you don't, you obviously wouldn't like this recipe. But if you do, this is a must try. And so asparagus is not just for your Easter dinner. It would work well for Thanksgiving or a Christmas dinner or any time in between. This one was so creamy and cheesy and delicious. I knew I wanted to include a recipe that would have butternut squash. I love to have butternut squash around this time of year. It's especially great at Thanksgiving time. So this recipe is called butternut squash and bacon crostinis. Now you could of course use just regular butternut squash, peel it, cook it, but I took an easy route by buying the frozen butternut squash that's already peeled and cubed. Of course you want to fry up your bacon. The recipe calls for 4 slices, and then you need to reserve that bacon fat to saute your butternut squash in. So here it is, all sauteed up and ready to roll. Now, what you include in with the squash is interesting. It calls for a little bit of salt and pepper, some fresh chopped sage. I used dried. And then it calls for honey and apple cider vinegar. I included all of these things, and it just gives a really great flavor to enhance that squash. So once it's sauteed and you add in those seasonings, get your honey in there, then you're pretty much ready to roll with the second portion of this recipe. Now, earlier I talked about using the crostinis and that baguette that I had purchased. This is what I bought it for originally, and that is for topping these with ricotta cheese and layering on that squash mixture, and then you top it with bacon. What an interesting combo of flavors. I'm a big fan of ricotta cheese. I'm sure you could use something in place of that if you don't enjoy ricotta cheese, but it's just a great little creamy flavor on the bottom to layer all of this on top on those little crunchy pieces of bread. That is a really, really good, interesting, and very seasonally perfect dish to serve on your Thanksgiving table. I really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend making these. All right, we are down to our last 2 dishes, and I am just chopping away on these carrots. I am making a carrot casserole. I have showed this on my channel before, but it's been a good while, and I think this one is just great for Thanksgiving. I first had a carrot casserole a few years back. My daughter-in-law made it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I wanted to add this one here. I think it would be a great side dish for Thanksgiving. So after the carrots are chopped, you want to boil those a little bit. They don't have to be completely finished. You are going to bake them, but you want to get them boiling. And while that was happening, I had diced up celery and onion for the other recipe that I'm showing you here, which is dressing balls. So I am using this stuffing cornbread mix. I usually use a box of like stovetop stuffing, but this is what I had and it worked out just fine. So you just want to saute in butter your celery and onions, and then you can just follow the dressing recipe on the back. So you can use the measurements for that according to how much that you are making. So I was using a half a bag. It called for 2 cups of chicken broth, and it's about the same way as the box stuffing mixes. You just stir it together, then you let that sit for 5 minutes for it to get all moistened together. Alright, now we are back to that same skillet. Now that my onions and celery is finished for the dressing balls, I am sauteing some red onion this time in some butter. And basically you're just making a roux for the cheese sauce for the carrot casserole. Now, I had already used my white onion, so I just used red, but it just calls for some onion. Of course, you could leave that out entirely if you don't like onion. So I'm adding a little bit of salt and pepper to this, not much because we are going to add cheese. And my butter started browning on me really quickly. I had my heat up just a little bit too high, but it didn't hurt anything in the end. Next, you add in a little bit of dry mustard. Once you get this all incorporated, you're just going to add in a little bit of milk and a cup of some sharp cheddar cheese. Now, if you've ever made a cheese sauce from scratch, you know that you can thin it out as much as you want or leave it as thick as you like. This one was a little on the thicker side, but like I said, it worked out just fine. You could thin it out a little bit more though if you desired. The cheese sauce goes in over top of the carrots, and I just kind of nestled it in there a little bit. Didn't, mix it and combine it real thoroughly, because once it goes in the oven, this is definitely going to start baking down through all of those carrots. The last thing you do is top it with a Ritz cracker mixture, which I'm a big fan of anything that has a Ritz cracker topping. It just gives it a really yummy, buttery, crunchy topping, and that's always a winner, especially on a casserole like this. I usually microwave some butter first and then toss my crackers in it, rather than just pouring the butter over the top. I like to make sure all the crackers have a fair amount of butter on there, and then you just bake this off in the oven. It doesn't take very long to get the carrots finished. This is a delicious side dish. If you haven't tried this one, I encourage you to give this carrot casserole a try. Now back to the dressing balls. Once the dressing mixture has cooled enough that you can work with it, you are just going to make round little balls of dressing with it. And this is about the size I make, maybe a little bit smaller, definitely not any bigger, but you can just imagine, a portion size of this per person. So that's about kind of how I measure out what I'm doing. And this is a smaller baking dish. What is this? Maybe, oh goodness, like a 9x9 possibly. I'm not quite sure. This made just the right size for 9 of these dressing balls, and that was with a half a bag of that dressing, and that would be about the equivalent size for 1 box of, say, stovetop stuffing mix, something like that. Once you get those into your sprayed baking dish, I use 1 can of cream of chicken, and then I fill that up with 1 can of milk and just mix that thoroughly and it gets poured over top, and then you just bake this. And so you have little balls of dressing with a chicken gravy. This is so good. The first time I ever had these was when my mom used to make them. And this was kind of a, she didn't always make it this way for like everyday dinner, but for holidays or something, this is what she would do. And they are just so delicious. I literally felt like I made a meal when these two came out of the oven, the carrot casserole and the dressing balls. They just tasted so delicious. I felt like it was a little pre-Thanksgiving, minus some nice plates for Thanksgiving. This night, I just used my fine china. Wink, wink. These definitely are both worth making.
All right, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below what in this video you think looks really yummy. And then also let me know what are your favorite Thanksgiving side dishes. There are some tried and trues that we just cannot be without around here. So let me know down below what yours are. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.